Hello you sexy beasts and welcome back to War Thunder patch 1.67 dev server. We are continuing the vehicle previews with the T34, the US's new heavy rank 4 tank that's in the regular tech tree. Now if this thing seems very familiar to you, that's because you probably have seen the T29 before, which is essentially the same tank. Really, the only two differences between the T29 and the T34, as far as I can see, are a different gun, which we'll touch on a little bit later, and an additional armor plate on the back, which covers the 102mm already existing plate with another 101mm, giving you a total of over 200mm of armor on the back of the turret. Now apart from that, we can actually take a look at the gun mantle plate that's behind the main gun mantle. So we have a 203mm gun mantle with a 20mm shield in the back, which is space and as such should be able to catch most of the spalling. Now, since the tank itself is essentially exactly the same as the T29, we're not going to waste too much time on that. Instead, let's talk about the main distinguishing feature of this tank, which is the gun. Whilst the T29 got a 105mm cannon, the T34 gets a 120mm cannon. Sadly, that is more of a drawback than it is an actual benefit, especially since, as you can see, there are no rechargeable shells. And I'm afraid to show you this, but this is all you get. You have a choice between a regular AP shell, which, by the way, this AP shell has less penetration than the stock AP shell on the T29, and you have an AT shell. No APHE. And this is going to be a massive thorn in the side of many people. Especially since not only does it only get an AP shell, but it also gets a slower reload time than the T29 does, due to the bigger caliber of the cannon. 19.4 stock, 14.5 aced. Let's compare that to the T29, which has 16.2 stock and 12.5 aced. That's a good difference in reload times. Now thankfully this tank is at the same battle rating as the T39, 6.7, at least at the moment, as currently in arcade mode. Seems to be the same in tank realistic mode. Keep in mind, this is dev server, battle ratings might change, and since this thing is not a premium, I can expect this thing to actually be up tiered sometime. Maybe not now, we'll see how this thing actually performs in battle. Now I kind of already have my, my previews and pre-opinions on this tank formed. I'm going to be honest with you right now, I don't think this tank is going to be worth it if you already have the T29, simply because it is essentially the same tank, but with a worse gun and worse ammo. And frankly, this added armor plate on the back of the turret is not a selling point, let's be clear about that. But the chest itself is still very strong. I mean, this is a very heavily armored tank with 3 50 caliber machine guns. And okay, whilst the gun will not do much in terms of post-penetration damage, it still has a lot of penetration. So let's not judge this thing too much, let's actually try it out in battle. Alright lads, we are in arcade mode on Poland, and yes, as it seems from the RE251 video, let's just say battle rating restrictions are not a factor in the dev server as we are facing T10Ms. Now let's talk a little bit about the platform itself. Now don't get me wrong, the T29 T34 chassis itself is awesome. The gun mantle is very thick, thicker than the turret front on the King Tiger for example, which is at the same battle rating. The hull armor is decent, not quite as good as the King Tiger I would say, but still very, very strong. Not quite so much against chieftains, which, oh my god! Okay, guys, we can stop it here. That was the best shot anyone is ever going to make in this tank. Rolling shot through the lower plate of the chieftain and blew up his ammo rack in one shot. Okay, that was awesome. That was awesome. So it seems like at least this tank does have a good chance of blowing up ammo racks. But okay, let's classify that as an outliner for now. Let's not get our hopes up too much. Keep in mind, I am slightly pessimistic towards this tank, and you should be too. This is, statistically, in almost every way, a worse version of the T29. The only difference being that you don't have to pay an exorbitant amount of golden eagles to get this tank. We have an M60 in the front. Now I don't exactly get a second chance. I actually want to pull back here just in case that M47 gets any. Yeah, as he does, no problem. I think the M60 just shot, so never mind. Actually, what the guy is reloading, let's get through this guy, and goodbye. Nope, 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 nope. Not through the upper frontal plate. Not through the upper frontal plate, not like that. We might still be able to survive this, hopefully. Oh, never mind. M60 just died. Can we get this? M40. Not quite enough damage, and that's the problem with AP shells. They just don't have enough post-penetration damage. Now, keep in mind, AP shells, at least high-caliber AP shells, are supposedly getting a buff this patch, as was discovered by Mike10D on Reddit. However, as you saw, it is still no substitute for an APHE shell. Now given, you do get slightly more penetration with this AP shell than you do with the APHE shell on the... Nope, 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 nope. Then you do with the AP shell, with the APHE shell on the... Oh god, everything is killing us. I think it was a FV, wasn't it? No, it was a Strumphunt actually. Okay, actually, can we get through this tortoise? We can get through the transmission, but again... AP ammunition is kind of a fuckwing. Now, if I had an AP shell right now, an APHE shell, I would simply go through this cupola over here and bounce inside into the tank. But since we don't have that, there isn't much of a choice we have, really. No chance going through the front of this tank, really. It seems like he's going for the... Yep. He, of course, has no problem going for the hull. And obliterates us. Nice! We are on one of the new maps. This is Ardennes in France. As if we didn't have enough French maps already, but... Seems very hurting foresty, actually. And very linear, look at the map. Now, of course, this is the arcade version, which probably is going to be very similar to the realistic mode version as well. But it's a very linear map, which, honestly, I don't actually mind all that much in the tank that we're playing. This is the kind of tank you don't want to get flanked in. Now, as you saw with our engagement with the Tortoise earlier, the lack of APHE is a big factor that you have to take in when you want to drive this tank. If we had any other choice of shell, if we had an APDS shell, we would have gone through the front. If we had the APHE shell, we would have simply shot through the cupola and obliterated the Tortoise. But since we didn't, since we only have an AP shell, you see where the problems lie. AP shells just don't have enough damage when it comes to, well, after penetration effects. They don't have enough spalling. They don't have the same effect as APHE shells, which once inside explode and kill everything inside. AP shells are good at dealing with moderately armored enemies that have very compacted crew, but that's about it. Once you face anything that is slightly voluminous, stuff like mouses, stuff like tortoises, AP shells just fall down, because you're going to require multiple shots to even take anything down. And, well, guess what? With the 120mm cannon that this thing has, you can't exactly dump out shots like you could in other tanks. It just doesn't have the fire rate for it. Even with an ace crew looking at a 14-second reload, that is not very good. Look at that! Through the front of the T29 and all we got! And that right there perfectly describes what I'm trying to get at with this tank and why I'm so cynical, alright? We shot through the frontal plate of the T29 and we only got a single crew. All we got was a machine gunner. No more damage, neither to the engine, anything behind that, the shell just evaporated. Alright? He, in a very similar situation, shot us through in pretty much the exact same spot. But since he had an APHE shell, he killed us in one shot. And that's what I want to get at here with the T34. Now, I'm not saying that this tank is bad per se. It is not a bad tank. The chassis itself is wonderful. It has armor. It is, okay, not the most maneuverable, but it's decently maneuverable. It gets 3 machine guns, which you can absolutely delete lighter armored vehicles with. But the gun and the cannon are what are going to be the factors that hold this thing down. This thing, just because the cannon and just because of the single selection of the AP shell, it's worse than T29. If you already had the T29, there's absolutely no point in even going for this tank, because you're not going to have a great time. So as a closing word, should you go for this tank? Well, I mean, you might as well. The US does need some heavy tanks, and this wing definitely delivers. This wing is very competitive against King Tigers, for example. It has the armor, it has enough penetration. It just gets let down by the ammo selection. But if you already have the T29, then honestly, don't bother playing this tank. Now I do want to definitely hammer one point in here. Keep in mind, this is the dev server. We might yet see more ammo types for this tank, and I really hope we do, because from what I've read, this shell is a practice shell. This is a test shell. This was never even designed to be used in combat. This tank was supposed to have hash and APDS shells, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully, before the patch drops, we are going to see more shells for this tank. Keep in mind, the T29 when it first came out also didn't have the APG shell. It only had solid AP, so we might yet see more shells in the future. But I don't actually think we are going to see these shells by the time this tank actually releases. We might see it later down the line, but not now. And given the current situation of AP shells, even with the supposed buff that they are going to see once the patch drops, I can't see this thing being too competitive, really. At least too effective when it comes to actually getting kills. Disabling tanks, sure. Actually killing them? No. But as always, those are my own opinions. I'm actually really going to be interested in seeing and hearing your opinions on this tank in the comment section down below. Try and prove me wrong, is what I'm essentially trying to get at. I'm just very skeptical when it comes to this tank. Anyways, lads, this is going to conclude the review, well, not quite review, but preview of the T34. I think we're going to do one last one today, since we are going to get a A26 Invader in the regular texture in the American aircraft, which is awesome. I like the A26, it's nice. So we're going to take a look at the A26 since we haven't reviewed a single aircraft so far, but that's going to be it. So lads, stay tuned for that. Like this video if you did, subscribe if you're new around here and you want to see more stuff of patch 1.67, and I'll see you in the next video. My name is MikeGoesBoom, and thank you for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find